Very good morning to you. It is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Welcome to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. We're taking your calls. The number is 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. It will become partly sunny, windy, a little milder today, maybe highs up to the low 50s, but meteorologist Mike Pavetta says, look out. Maybe a little challenge this morning. I see some ice on some of the roadways this morning. Complete garden safe forecast for us. Good morning to you, Mike.
Good morning to you, Ken. We start off this morning with a very cold feel again. There could be some lingering spots of ice, especially with some melting that occurred yesterday, warmed up above the freezing mark. These start off, however, right around that freezing mark in Newark and Morristown. 26, the coldest spot currently in Sussex, and 31 down toward Toms River. Now, even though there's not a whole lot of wind this morning, winds are fresh, anywhere from 6 to 16 miles per hour, making it feel a little bit cooler. So yes, there's a wind chill at 7:01 this morning. 27 is how it feels in Long Branch, and 30 back over toward Flemington. But this, I think, will be the end of what will be a pretty long stretch of cold weather that started on Saturday evening and took us right through this morning. We are already anywhere from 12 to 22 degrees warmer than this time yesterday. So a big change and a step in the right direction. Beautiful clear sky this morning, had a thin layer of clouds, in fact, right at sunrise, made for that gorgeous sunrise as the sun came in, kind of illuminated the cloud deck in a lovely shade of purple and pink, if you saw it right around 6:30 this morning. But now, today, with that southerly fetch of air, we will see temperatures warm quickly into the low 60s, 60 degrees in Trenton, and even over toward Newark and Flemington will likely hit 60 degrees as well by 4 o'clock today. It'll be a beautifully spring-like afternoon with lots of sunshine for your Tuesday. Then tomorrow brings in some rain. Now, it'll be mild. It'll hold in the 50s tomorrow morning with a few spotty showers, but the main brunt of rain comes in tomorrow afternoon. Look at this line of red. This is a line of potentially severe weather that could bring damaging winds, maybe even some gusts over 50 miles per hour, as well as some small hail just in time for tomorrow evening's commute. So as that pushes through, it gives us a nice round of rain and then clears out for a little bit of a cooler day on Thursday. So the next few days featuring, well, a very spring-like feel. Beautifully mild today, thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon, and then we finish out the week a little bit cooler but drier, setting up for a nice weekend. We'll tell you more about that weekend and give you more details on tomorrow's storm, Ken. It's coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Mike, that's what happens when you get the clash of fronts, right? The temperature's warm and cold. So there you go as the battle for spring continues. Thank you so much, Mike. It is now 30 degrees and our time is 7:03. And here's what we have in terms of traffic. In Cherry Hill Township, we have a crash on Route 38 westbound, just west of Route 616, Coles Avenue. And that is closing the left lane right now. We have a crash on 78 eastbound, west of exit 11, which is Pattenberg Road in Bethlehem Township. A left lane is closed there. We also have problems now in Bridgewater Township, a disabled tractor trailer, Route 28. That's affecting traffic in both directions west of Route 633, which is Finnendine Avenue in Bridgewater. Again, all lanes are closed there. And we still have that emergency pothole repair eastbound Route 84 at exit 34 in Wharton Township. That's going to continue for the next few weeks again. Because of that ongoing issue trying to repair the existing sinkhole that we have and then the sinkholes in the area around it that some have opened, or at least one other one has begun to open. That is being taken care of, and the crews are looking to ensure that other holes do not open up. So give them time. They want to make sure the roadway is safe for us to use. It is now 7:04, and the top FBI official in New York City has been forced out of his job. That is according to an email that he sent to his colleagues yesterday. His name is James Hennahy. He is the assistant, or was the assistant director in charge of the FBI's largest field office in Manhattan. Well, he was told on Friday that he needed to turn in his retirement papers by yesterday. Dennehy told his staffers he had absolutely no idea why he was being told to resign. Really? Well, he conveniently forgot to mention that he appeared to have directly ignored orders from the new Attorney General, Pam Bondi. Yes, he has a boss. Apparently, he has an attitude that he doesn't have a boss. That new Attorney General ordered him to release all the files that he was holding on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, choosing instead to release the same papers that were already released last year. So Attorney General Bondi, you'll recall, last week said that by Friday, there would be all the paperwork released, every single file on Jeffrey Epstein. And I guess he didn't like, he being Dennehy did not like being told what to do by the new boss. So what he did was he simply released the very same papers that were released a year ago by the FBI, the same papers everyone else had. And that left Pam Bondi looking a little powerless with a little egg on her face. Well, you don't do that to the new boss. That's pretty stupid. Dennehy was already under the microscope for allegedly ignoring President Trump's orders to produce a list of 5,000 agents and employees who were part of the January 6th investigation, something he told staff not to do. Senior members of DC's intelligence agencies have appeared weaponized against the right in recent years. They don't seem to like it when people they were harassing are suddenly their bosses. It is what it is. Get used to it, boys. It is 7:06. Jersey Shore beach badge prices for 2025 have been released, and some are costing as much as $200. Now, I went on to NJ.com. NJ.com did a great job. They listed town after town and the price that they charge. At least a dozen beaches offer free entry to veterans, and many offer discounts to seniors and the physically challenged. That's a good thing. But these badges sell fast, so if you want to get your badge, and you know everybody's going to want to go to the beach in probably the next couple of months, you better pull out that credit card. And by the way, in Florida, a place that is near and dear to my heart, you know that state that also has no state income tax, but somehow everything seems to run just fine. Beaches there in Florida are open to everybody, free of charge. There is no such thing as an entry fee anywhere in the entire state of Florida, all along the coast, from the top in the Panhandle all the way down to the Keys and all the way back up the West Coast by the Gulf of America. There is no entry fee at all. Yet the beaches in Florida are well maintained, perfectly clean. They have staffed lifeguards. They're patrolled by police. You never, ever hear of a crime being committed. I'm sure they occur, but you just don't hear them. It's not frequent. So how is it that the state of Florida can do it without charging $200 for a badge? But New Jersey towns have to charge that huge amount of money. And before you say, well, Mr. Rosato, it's about crowds. Remember, Florida has way higher a population than New Jersey does. In fact, Florida is the third largest state. It has some of the highest numbers of tourists in the entire nation. Tourists who go to Florida for what? Movies? No, they go there for the beaches. And somehow they don't have to pay. They get on the beaches and they're not too crowded. So maybe New Jersey could take a look at how they do it there. It is now 7:08. Last night, the Vatican announced the Pope suffered 2 episodes of acute respiratory insufficiency. Translation, he was on the verge of not being able to breathe due to the enormous amount of congestion in both lungs. Remember, he has a third of one lung missing. Doctors were able to remove some of the fluid. They put him on forced oxygen. As of last night, he was stable, but doctors say he is not out of the woods at this point. Over the weekend, the Pope thanked everybody for their prayers, and he asked that everybody continue to pray. 7:08, President Trump said today is the day that he will begin to impose 25% tariffs on goods imported from Canada and Mexico, ending wishes for a last-minute deal that would avoid a trade war with 2 of the U.S.'s top trading partners. Trump told reporters yesterday, quote, they are all set. They go into effect tomorrow, talking about the tariffs. Trump cited the flow of deadly fentanyl into the U.S. And by the way, it's pronounced fentanyl, not fentanyl. Drives me nuts when people say fentanyl. There's no OL, it's YL. OL means chemically it's an alcohol. YL means it's a methyl. 2 different chemicals, if you remember your chemistry class. I know, I'm just being a know-it-all. Anyway, he didn't like the fact that there was still deadly fentanyl coming into the U.S., and he used that as a justification for the tariffs. He said, you guys, you're making an effort, but you haven't done it yet. So he's serious. They think he's just kidding around and they could make efforts and that would end it. Nope. President Trump is now imposing a tariff war. The president also imposed an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports because that's where the fentanyl originates from and goes to Mexico for processing before it comes to the U.S. And he's also doubling the 10% duty that he had slapped on Beijing back in early February. So now they must pay a total of 20%, or we must if we buy Chinese goods. The fighting could soon start up again in the Middle East, we are told. Negotiations over the continued release of hostages held in Gaza have stalled. Officials believed that if no agreement was reached between Israel and Hamas, Israel would return to fighting in Gaza. And that could occur in about 10 days from now. Our time is 7:10. Got a nice big bowl of nutria. What is nutria? Well, it's basically a big fat rat. Yeah, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is urging Americans to fill their bellies with this invasive species that is wreaking havoc on habitats across the country. As part of its Native Invasive Species Awareness Week, the agency released a list of 5 invasive creatures that they're encouraging people to hunt and eat as a way to protect native creatures. So what happens is these nutria were introduced as a means of protecting crops, and they should have never been introduced into the habitat because what they do is they eat all the food from the other native animals because they eat like little pigs. They're fat anyway. So at the top of the list of what we should be consuming is nutria. They are large water-loving rodents, rodentia, that resemble beavers, only they don't have the trademark beaver flat tail. They're native to swamps of South America. They were brought to the U.S. again by fur traders in the 1930s, and again tend to starve other animals in the habitat. So environmental folks say, if you're hungry, go and fetch yourself a nutria. 7-Eleven right now, when you think of people getting stung by scorpions, what do you think of? You think of a desert in the nation's southwest, right? Well, not so fast. Apparently in New England over the weekend, a woman at Boston International Airport was simply trying to get her bags off of the moving platform at the airport. She got stung. It's not known how the scorpion got there. Clearly somebody must have either intentionally put it in their bag or it accidentally hitched a ride on one of the bags or in the cargo hold of a plane. The woman was taken to an area hospital. No word on her condition. Scorpion bites, depending on how your body translates the scorpion venom, could be very dangerous, if not even fatal in some cases. Iconic singer Dolly Parton announced the passing of her longtime husband, nearly half a century. Yesterday he passed. Carl Dean died at the age of 82. The two met in 1964 and married in 1966. And in spite of their many, many years together, I mean, they were totally in love. Carl, who was an asphalt contractor, chose to remain in the background. Let her be her, let me be me, and we'll be happy. And they were. The two would have celebrated their 59th anniversary this coming May. Rest in peace, Carl. 7:12 right now, and what appears to be the perfect example of the slow death of traditional television. This year's big old Academy Award show, usually one of the most viewed events of the year outside of the Super Bowl. This happened on Sunday night, you'll recall. It produced a big audience, don't get me wrong, but that audience of about 18 million was down by over 7% year to year. That is a huge plunge. That's off a cliff huge. And you could bet people in the broadcast TV industry are talking about it today, and they are going to be very concerned. As people gradually change their viewing habits to streaming services like us here, on New Jersey. This is a streaming service on what's called a FAST platform. That's what they refer to it as. FAST is an acronym for free advertised sponsored television. And they're using their phones for headlines now. Traditional broadcast television has seen the biggest audience decline of any entertainment medium, even more than radio. Our time is 7:13. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul running digital ads in Washington, D.C.'s Union Station. Yeah, New York State is in debt by billions, but yet she's putting up ads in DC's Union Station on New York dime. She's running these ads to invite any federal workers who got laid off to come work for New York State, even though we don't need any workers in New York State, and New York State is billions in debt. How does this make sense? And if you're a New York State resident, why don't you not vote for her? Just think about that. New York State people pay some of the highest taxes in the entire nation. They get some of the worst services. They have some of the highest crime. And they have a high income tax. And you have a governor in charge who's barely in charge with a state legislature that's running amok. And they don't do their jobs, yet they want to give away even more money, billions more, when they're already billions in debt. Now, it sounds like a noble gesture, but the liberal Democrat, again, doesn't seem to learn that gestures like this are what cost the Democrats the presidential election. So it's all about making the show. New York is currently experiencing a $5 billion budget shortfall. Again, one of the highest taxed states in the nation, and in such bad shape. Remember, it had to recently introduce congestion pricing, something that President Trump wants to get rid of in Manhattan, and that's to support crumbling MTA trains still rolling on the tracks. The governor thinks that is New York's best possible interest to hire people who were laid off from federal jobs because they were considered extraneous and unnecessary for the federal government. So why would you then consider it necessary to hire them in New York? If they were laid off because they weren't doing their jobs or because their jobs were deemed unnecessary, what jobs do you plan on giving them that are so necessary in New York State? I don't know. Could just be me. 7:15, today is Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras translates from the French Mardi means Tuesday and Gras means fat. So it's Fat Tuesday. It is the last day before the Christian season of Lent. Lent is the 40-day period of repentance as Christians prepare for the celebration of Easter, the resurrection of Christ. Traditionally, Christians say that Lent is a period of 40 days, but if you look at a calendar, here's something for a trivia contest when you go to the next cocktail party, folks. People will say, you could say, how long is Lent? Lent's 40 days, right? Well, if you look at a calendar, Lent is actually 46 days. So why do we say it's 40 days? Aha, think about it. Christians do not count Sundays in Lent as times of penitence because Sundays represent the resurrection of Christ. So they deduct those 6 days. That's a trivia question you could win a buck on and maybe a free cocktail. It's the reason why we call Fat Tuesday. It's because Ash Wednesday, which is tomorrow in the Catholic and Orthodox churches, is a day of fasting. Over the centuries, Christians would eat all of their extra food, especially flour goods. Jews, that comes from the Jewish tradition, by the way, hefetz, to get rid of all the flour when they would fast. So it wouldn't be in the house to nibble on during the period you're supposed to be fasting, and thus it wouldn't go bad. Many cultures celebrate by doing everything from throwing parades to making stacks of pancakes and making other sweet desserts. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, as I mentioned, and that's when many Christians receive ashes on their forehead on the form of a cross for humility and to remind them of their mortality. There, now you have all of this trivia that you're equipped with on your Tuesday, your Mardi Gras. It is now 32 degrees and our time is 7:16. When we come back, New Jersey Globe editor David Wildstein has the inside scoop from Trenton. Stand by for the inside edge. And meteorologist Mike Favetta has the latest Garden State forecast, partly sunny, mostly sunny actually in some areas. It'll be windy and very mild today, highs maybe up to the low 60s in some areas. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings, which you can stream at ONNJ.com, Roku, Fire TV, News on Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X. We also stream live now on Rumble and Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv/OnNewJersey, all spelled out. We're back in 2. And welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Temperature now 32 degrees and the time is 7:18. Meteorologist Mike Favetta says partly cloudy today, windy and milder highs. Did you say
Yeah.
that right? Or did I not have another sip of
Uh-huh.
coffee? Did you say low 60s?
Low
What is that
60s. It's going to feel
about?
amazing. What a Fat Tuesday. Great day to enjoy. Maybe a little al fresco dining, right? Enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
feast. Plenty of great, great weather to enjoy. You can go for a stroll after dinner and you won't freeze, especially with temperatures this afternoon climbing into the low 60s statewide. Now, again, that's unless you find yourself there toward the ocean along the shoreline, but beyond that, it's going to be a beautiful finish to the day. Then we start to see the clouds roll in tomorrow. I think the rain holds off until late morning, early afternoon. Very spotty, but it'll still stay mild across most of the state up through the midday tomorrow. Notice the line of storms that arrives from the west just in time for tomorrow evening's commute. These will be stronger, giving us gusty winds, maybe even some small hail, and of course the torrential downpours. They exit by tomorrow evening, leaving in its wake a partly sunny day on Thursday, but a little bit of a breeze out of the west. It's actually the same system that's providing some severe weather in the Midwest with tornadoes there. We don't tap into that, but there will be some storms that provide a very healthy fetch of moisture, giving us a good soaking rain tomorrow evening with that elevated risk of strong to severe weather. As far as today, enjoy the calm. Temperatures climb well into the 50s in central New Jersey. Warmest spots down toward Mount Holly and Fort Dix could reach the upper 50s for you, but I think there's a good deal of the locations across the state could hit 60 degrees today, especially with all the sun. Now, with the winds that come in, these are the modeled wind gusts, which don't have that high resolution, which can really kind of pinpoint what happens in your location. But still, with the winds picking up tomorrow afternoon, where you see those shades of red and orange, that's where it gets really gusty, especially as that front approaches. You can see that line of winds here converging, gusting upwards of 44 miles per hour over in Camden, even toward Medford, and then moving eastward near 50 miles per hour down towards Ship Bottom on LBI. Same for you in Atlantic City. And as that pushes east, seeing those winds lighten up by tomorrow evening into Thursday morning overnight. So it'll take some time for those gusts to clear. There's the system back off to the west. It's a big one, providing a lot of moisture and a lot of energy there. So with the storms in the Midwest, again, they weaken. No tornadoes for us here in New Jersey, but still a lot of energy with that storm. Now, when it all passes throughout Thursday and Friday, we clear out, we calm the rest of the week down into the weekend. I think Saturday and Sunday is looking okay. Saturday still could have a quick early morning sprinkle with a weak front passing through. Might have a rogue snowflake mixed in there. But by the time we get to Sunday, could have a little bit more cloud cover and maybe even some leftover energy in the upper atmosphere. Could have some extra clouds by then. Overall, the weekend not looking terrible, especially with a 50-degree start on Saturday and then cooler to finish by 40 on Sunday with a dry weekend all around. We'll take another check of your forecast, look more in detail at the threat for the wind, the hail, all of that coming up in just a few minutes, Ken.
All right, Mike, 32 degrees. Our time is 7:22, and nobody is going to get off without traffic today. We have traffic as we always do every morning, and it seems to be at this time because the sun is glaring in people's faces, and sun we have today. So we have a disabled vehicle on the Garden State Parkway northbound south of exit 148 JFK Drive north in East Orange. The right lane is blocked through there. I-78 Bethlehem Township, the left lane is closed where a crash is on, again, I-78 eastbound. That's west of exit 11 Hattenberg Road in Bethlehem Township. Emergency construction still on that sinkhole, I-80 eastbound at exit 34, Route 15 in Wharton. All lanes closed, people being detoured. That's going to be a few more weeks. And we now have delays on I-80 eastbound from east of exit 30, Howard Boulevard in Roxbury Township to west of 34. That's connected to the construction that we have on that sinkhole. Route 21, we have delays northbound from exit 13, Randolph Avenue to exit 14, Route 46 in Clifton. Travel time's about 10 minutes, and delays on 46 eastbound near 1 and 9 in Palisades Park. Travel time there is about 10 minutes. When you think politics in Trenton, there's only one human being that comes to mind for me, and that's a guy named David Wildstein, the editor of the New Jersey Globe. Here he is now with the Inside Edge.
Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, March 4th. Welcome to the Inside Edge. Since Donald Trump came within 6 points of carrying New Jersey last year, there's been a whole lot of talk about Jersey suddenly becoming a purple state. But the reality is that when it comes to governor's races, New Jersey has always been purple. Over the last 14 gubernatorial elections, Democrats have won 7 times and Republicans have won 7 times. And I'm going to try and very quickly walk you through those. We'll start in 1969. New Jersey had a Democratic governor for 16 years. Republican Bill Cahill won by 24 points against a former governor, helped very much by the Hudson County boss, John Kenney, allowing Republicans to take Hudson by 15 points because he didn't like the Democratic nominee. 4 years later, Cahill loses the Republican primary to a conservative challenger that didn't matter because that was the Watergate year, and Brendan Byrne won the governorship by a 2-to-1 margin. He swept Democrats into the legislature and carried every county but Cape May. Byrne should have lost re-election. In 1977, he had instituted the first income tax. He was incredibly unpopular. He had only won the Democratic primary with 30% of the vote, but the Republican tax plan didn't hold up. Brendan Byrne wound up winning re-election after trailing by 10 points, winning by 14. Then you get to 1981, Tom Kean wins the closest race in New Jersey history, 1,707 votes against Jim Florio. That election was not called until November 30th. Kean was incredibly popular. He won re-election with 70% of the vote. And in 1989, Florio ran for a third time. This time he won by 24 points. Then he went and raised taxes by $2.8 billion. He was incredibly unpopular, but he almost recovered. Christie Whitman beat him by just 1 percentage point, by about 26,000 votes. Whitman was popular before she wasn't, and she faced Jim McGreevey in 1997, an incredibly disciplined campaign. Whitman only won by 1 point. Her margin was only about 25,000 votes. Jim McGreevey comes back and runs again in 2001, runs a skilled campaign. The Republicans put up probably the candidate that they shouldn't have, and McGreevey wins by 15 points. Then you get to John Corzine, who had spent $75 million of his own money to win a U.S. Senate seat in 2000, only to decide after 5 years that he preferred to be governor. It's the battle of self-funders against Doug Forrester. Corzine had a lot more money, and he beat Forrester by 10 points. 2009 comes along. Corzine is battling a recession. Chris Christie beats him by 3.5 points, and then Christie wins re-election with 60% of the vote. By 2017, Phil Murphy is running, and Christie's approval numbers were down in the teens. It was an unwinnable race for Republicans, and Phil Murphy won that race by 14 points. He ran for re-election in 2021 against Jack Ciattarelli, and Ciattarelli held him to 3 points in an incredibly close race. So here we are again in a governor's race where we have a competitive primary on both sides and probably another competitive general election coming up. That's a wrap for today, everybody. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back tomorrow.
Thank you so much, David. It is now 32 degrees at 7:28. Meteorologist Mike Vivette has been telling us that New Jersey is in a drought for months. In fact, he's been telling us that. Well, now here's proof. Not that I would ever doubt our meteorologist, but just to reinforce what he's been saying. Wildfire season begins later this month. Technically, they have a season for it. A lot of people, I didn't even realize there was a wildfire season. I'm sure that Mike knew that, but I didn't. But apparently, because it has been so dry and we've been in a drought, we already have hundreds of acres burned in Salem and Mercer counties in New Jersey. Now, the good news is fire officials say 90% of the fire is contained, but nearly 300 acres have burned so far. Luckily, nobody's been forced to entirely evacuate, just kind of on standby. New Jersey's wildfire season, the time when we tend to be driest and most at risk of wildfires, and when you should not light fires in the forest, or if you do, you have to be very, very careful to put tons of water on them, to put them out carefully. Our wildfire season runs March 15th to May 15th. Time is 7:29. A new report shows about 60% of all adults worldwide will be overweight or obese by 2050. That is a serious health concern. In fact, that's why RFK Jr. ran for president originally and is now the head of Health and Human Services. Medical experts say this poses an unparalleled threat of early death, disease, and enormous strain on healthcare systems. Obesity, I know people are saying stop fat shaming. Okay, I used to be 400 pounds. Obesity causes inflammation. It causes a breakdown of just about every body function. It causes heart disease. I'm not a doctor, but every doctor has said this. It can be an influence for cancer. It causes, like I said, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, arthritis. Every problem known to exist can be exacerbated by obesity. And now we have 2.11 billion adults right now, age 25 or above, and nearly half a billion children and young people, age 5 to 24, who are currently overweight or obese. And that is up from 731 million and 198 million, respectively, just back in 19. Without action, more than half of those aged 25 or above worldwide, and about a third of all children and young people will be affected by the year 2050, which is not that far off, folks. 25 years. The study was published in the respected medical journal, The Lancet. And yesterday, the Republican-led Senate voted to confirm Linda McMahon as the new Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education. McMahon is a former professional wrestling magnate worth hundreds of millions, actually, who led the Small Business Administration during President Trump's first term, and she was confirmed by a 51-45 party line vote. McMahon previously served on the Connecticut State Board of Ed. During her confirmation hearing, McMahon decried a public education system in decline and vowed to reorient the department. McMahon pointed out how the amount of money that we're spending is not commensurate with the outcome, because we're spending more per pupil than just about any other country, and we rank just about last in reading and math skills. It is 32 degrees at 7:31 when On New Jersey Mornings returns. Folks fed up with the cold weather are looking to escape. Erik the Travel Guy Hastings is going to be in about half an hour from now with some cruise tips he'll want you to hear. And meteorologist Mike Favetta will be back. It'll be partly to mostly sunny, windy, milder today, highs up to the low 60s. Plus, we will take your calls at 1-888-658-0234. 888-658-0234. On New Jersey Mornings is coming right back. Good morning, 7:33 now. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Partly cloudy, windy, milder today. Highs into the low 60s. Meteorologist Mike Favetta has the complete Garden State forecast for us. Mike, I'm thinking, now, I don't know, but I'm thinking Mother Nature heard us talking about meteorological spring yesterday, and just to shut us both up, she said, right, I'll give you a day. I'll give you yuz. People don't realize she has like a New York, New Jersey accent, so she said, I'll give you a day.
Absolutely. Took the hint politely, because knows we can strong arm nature, especially after so much cold weather kind of slapped us around this weekend. Well, now who's got the last laugh? Because this afternoon, highs climbing into the low 60s will feel fantastic under mostly sunny skies, a very spring-like feel through the end of the day. It comes with the price, especially tomorrow, with the potential for some strong gusty winds as some storms push through New Jersey. That leads us to a little bit of a breezy day for Thursday, finally ultimately ultimately culminating in a dry weekend and a dry finish to the week. Temperatures today, big difference when you're down the shore, whether you find yourself along the shore where you only reach the upper 40s there in the beachfront areas from Atlantic City down to Cape May, or back further inland over by Camden and Glassboro, upper 50s near 60 degrees. So a pleasant feel, well above average today, even though the forecast high at some locations is only 41. I think we'll get well beyond that. With the cloud cover around this morning, there is some morning cloud cover, which eventually dissipates throughout the afternoon. So yes, we'll start off a bit gray. However, there's a lot more warm air this afternoon, allowing for a beautiful warm up with the sunshine later on. It'll look great. Big jump to 100% tomorrow. So yeah, no matter what corner of New Jersey you find yourself in on Wednesday, you'll get wet, specifically in the afternoon and early evening. Those rain chances drop off to almost nothing by Saturday and Sunday. So a drier finish to the week, and certainly the weekend. Now overall, there's just a slight risk of severe weather down toward the southwestern corner of New Jersey. The rest of the state has a marginal risk of severe weather. What this means, it's the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, kind of categorizing the areas into buckets, 1 through 5, 1 being the least severe, 5 being the best chance of severe weather. So right now we're basically at a 1 across New Jersey. But they also break it down into how our potential looks for hail, and there is the potential for some hail across the most of New Jersey tomorrow. No chance of tornadoes. Most of that is down to our south and west in the mid-Atlantic, but there's also a good chance of severe wind, and those are wind gusts in excess of 58 miles per hour. So yeah, I think we could see the potential for some damaging winds by the end of the day tomorrow when that front pushes through, and it'll leave in its wake anywhere from an inch or 2 of rain before all is said and done, all wrapping up by the end of the day. Air quality level today is good. We're at a 45, which anything below 50 is great. You notice that the current air quality, okay, but it likely gets a little worse by the end of the day, especially in the northwestern corner of the state as those southerly breezes push on in. We are loving that high pressure today, keeping our skies clear for this afternoon. Warm front comes in. There's the cold front that provides the storms by the end of the day tomorrow. And then we finish out the week on a nice dry note before the potential for a few extra clouds come in for Saturday. So I think it's dry on Saturday. Extra clouds, maybe a passing sprinkle to our north, but overall, we're looking good. A lot better than tomorrow with those gusty winds and downpours with the thunderstorms. Thursday sees a clearing with temperatures slowly cooling off, and we hold just above freezing across most of the state overnight and into the afternoons, with our coldest part of the week happening on Sunday. Down the shore is a little bit cooler, especially at the shore points with that wind off of the water. Ocean temperature still 39 degrees, so it's going to feel chilly when the wind blows off of the water, even in the afternoons, only holding in the low 40s by Sunday, and starting off next week, week 3 of March, with a little bit less sleep because we spring ahead this weekend. I think by Monday, we'll start to feel the effects of maybe the afternoons getting a little bit longer with the longer daylight hours in the afternoon, feeling nice by then. But overall, a chilly forecast beginning on Sunday after some lovely mild weather today, Ken.
Mike, I always get confused when I have to fly, and I often fly, by the way, on the day that we spring ahead or fall back. I don't know why it just works out that way. I usually have a flight, and usually we turn back the clock, or in this case, spring forward at like 2:12 in the morning or something like
Yeah.
that, something in that area. I have a flight Sunday at 6 o'clock. And I always think to myself, what happens if you had a flight at 2 o'clock in the morning? If there was
Uh-huh.
a flight like in
Right.
the middle of the night, is it 2 o'clock post spring ahead, or is it 2 o'clock? You know where I'm going with this.
I
I'm
do. I
confused.
do.
I'm East.
I've seen the clocks, those automatic military clocks, the ones on the atomic clock signal. They just kind of, after going 2 seconds, they skip ahead to the next hour. So it's like it never happened. Good news for overnight shift workers, too, because sometimes they'll get, compensated for the extra hour, but then have to eat it in the fall when they work the extra hour.
There you go. Well, as my father would always say, and he's still around, thank goodness, at 94, always assume to get there early. He doesn't talk anything like that. I'm just giving him that accent. Always assume to get there early. So if you think you got to get there the hour before, get there the hour before. And the most you got to do is get a cup of coffee. There. He actually, like I said, he speaks like his Connecticut lockjaw. He doesn't have that accent at all, but I figured I would give him an Italian New York accent. All right, Mike, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. Check back with you in a little bit on this nice and mild day. Appreciate that. All right, checking the traffic now at 7:39 really fast. We have delays on I-280 westbound, Stickle Drawbridge to 14E King Street, Newark. Travel time there's about 5 to 10 minutes. Delays 280 westbound. Also, the ramp westbound east of I-80 in Parsippany Troy Hills. All lanes are open, but again, some delays through there. And delays on New Jersey's Route 4 eastbound from west of the Jersey Turnpike, 95 GWB in Englewood to west of routes 1 and 9 in Fort Lee. Travel time there's about 10 to 15 minutes. Finally, we have that sinkhole still being worked on. That's eastbound I-80 in Wharton Township, exit 34. Everybody's being detoured off. It's going to be that way for the next couple of weeks. So beware of that and plan accordingly. I know it's annoying, but they want to make sure that roadway's properly repaired before they get it open again to you. It is now 7:40, and we've got a real treat for music and theater fans alike. A man who is a veteran actor with 40 years on Broadway, and yet he tells us he's only 27. He's been in films and on TV, but in 2020, he took a leap and created a show-stopping tribute to the one and only Neil Diamond, one of the most prolific songwriters and performers ever. Now this man, whom we will have on, has toured across the country, and he's bringing the magic to Millville next week. Take a look.
And he's sweet, but it ain't nothing next to this tree. If you're calling me, what I'd like to say, we'll do okay forever in blue jeans, babe.
Wow, that is pretty cool. All right, this is Robert Neary, the star of So Good, the Neil Diamond Experience. Robert, not only do you sound just like the man, and that's a big compliment because he has an amazing voice, but you look so much like him. You mentally transform into him when you get on stage? I mean, do you become in your mind Neil Diamond?
I do. I do. Absolutely. Yes. As an actor, it's just a transportation. I just emulate everything about him. I've studied him. I've studied his moves. I've studied his voice, and it just becomes second nature. So, but I do not say I'm Neil Diamond.
Well, no, I get it, but you
Yeah.
could. I mean, you could totally get away with it. Again, I mean that in the best way. You've had a
Thank you.
40-year career as an actor, but in 2020, during the pandemic, that's when you decided to reinvent yourself, right? So is that what inspired you to create the Neil Diamond tribute?
I did. He had retired in 2018, and because of the pandemic and the creativity process, the actors and entertainers do. You always try and reinvent yourself and saying, okay, what's going to happen next? Are our auditions going to keep coming, or are they going to stop? And things started slowing down as far as the acting was concerned. So I just sat down and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to create this. He's always been an idol of mine. I love the guy. I've loved his music. And I just started putting a set list together, and so here we are now, 5 years later, killing it.
The funny thing, yeah, killing it is right, because you've been in 28 states, over 150 packed venues. I'd say that makes you the envy of a lot of performers who wish they could come close to that. You have 48 dates this year alone. That is amazing. And the one thing I think about when I think of Neil Diamond, being 57 myself, I think of him as almost every one of his songs is cool. Like I could listen to any one of his songs. He may not be my favorite performer of all time, but yet nobody hates Neil Diamond. Like everybody likes, you know what I'm saying? That everyone knows a Neil Diamond song and can sing along to it, which is what makes it great. It's kind of like Billy Joel. Like Billy Joel may not be everybody's favorite, but everybody knows every Billy Joel song. These are great, prolific, brilliant songwriters. And Neil Diamond is that guy where every single song the guy has written has become a huge hit. So do you find that when you have the audiences that everyone sings along to every word?
it's amazing because everybody has their specific song of Neil Diamond's that they just get transported back, in their memories. They're reliving these incredible memories. They're singing all the words. They say, "Oh my God, I forgot that song. I forgot he did that song." And it's just a night of nostalgia. It's a night of feeling good. Yeah, everybody has their Neil Diamond story, and it's just an incredible night. I love watching people with their eyes closed and they're just singing along and they're smiling. And then we do meet and greets afterwards, and people who shake my hand and say, "You brought back so many memories." It's so fulfilling. It's just incredible.
Have you had, I'm sorry to step on you again. We have a delay with our signal here. Have you had people come
That's
up
okay.
to you after a show and say to you, "Listen, I've met Neil Diamond, or I've seen Neil Diamond 5 times in concert. You nailed it." I'm sure you've had that. I'm asking a question, assuming a yes. And what does it feel like when you hear that?
That's not why I do it. But it's no feeling like it. I mean, I have the biggest smile on my face when they shake my hand and they're so genuine, and they say exactly that. They say, "I've seen Neil Diamond, and it was just like being right there." And it's not like I set out to be him. I just set out to give that concert experience. And a lot of times people will say, "My dad or my mom used to play Neil Diamond in our house all the time." And I was right there. I was right there when I first saw him in 1972 or in 1998. It's just a remarkable feeling. And the smile, I just can't talk when people shake my hand and say that. I just simply say, "Thank you so much." Yeah.
And I must say, you're not, when I see your video, I don't think of you as and I use air quotes here, an impersonator, as much as the experience giver, because an impersonator sometimes sounds like somebody who exaggerates in order to, almost like mockery. That's not what you're doing. This is paying homage in the highest level to the art and the music that is Neil Diamond. And you can just see it in your performance, that you don't exaggerate his moves or his sound. You emulate, and there is a difference there. I'm sure it might be almost a little offensive when you hear people say, "Oh, you're an impersonator." I would never use that, because clearly anyone should just go to your website and take a look at the videos. You'll see that is not the case. Now to move forward here, just because of time here, you've got something exciting in the works with symphony halls. Tell us more about how Vincent Opito, this young Hollywood orchestrator, is transforming the show.
Yeah, it just so happens where he was a student of my trumpet player, and my agents had talked to me about, broadening this and making it, into a concert experience for symphonies. So I reached out to him, and he's absolutely incredible. He's orchestrated when Cobra Kai, Marvel movies, worked with James Newton Howard, John Williams. And I sat down with him and I said, "Now, I don't want this to be like a tribute band who puts an orchestra behind him. I want this to be a major, major symphony show. And I need every song to be a show-stopping cinematic masterpiece." And I'll tell you what, he sends me these files of these songs that we're putting together, and I'm just blown away. Every song just takes you to a different level, and I can't wait till we get these into symphony halls. It's incredible.
I will fly to wherever you are to check that out, because I love orchestras or big bands, because there is nothing like the gut punching awesome feel of being in a live hall with a big band or an orchestra. And you as a performer, you must beam when you have that orchestra behind you. I mean, I'm sure you've encountered it before, and I can't even imagine how you must be glowing.
Yeah, I've had the orchestras behind me before, of course, when I've done Broadway shows, but I can't wait for this. I mean, this, again, every time he sends me a new song that he composes, I'm completely blown away, and I listen to it. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to have this happen," because again, it's just not his song, and like other people do it as a behind the band. This is the full orchestra. This is, again, a cinematic masterpiece, a showstopper every single song. So it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Oh, by the way, just an aside, Robert, have you met Neil Diamond?
Real quickly, I answer the question. I parked his car in 1995 in Nashville. I was working it.
Great story.
He was doing Tennessee Moon album in the mid '90s. I was doing some music down there, working at a valet restaurant. He came in late at night, sat and chatted. Well, stood and chatted with him when he got out of his car. And haven't met him yet. Haven't ran into him yet. However, he and his wife know about my show. They've seen the movie that's on Amazon Prime. And I'm hoping that when we go back out to California next year, that he does get the chance to come to the show, and I do get to shake his hand.
I'm sure he must be very honored at the fact that you would do this show and that it sells out and it's packed. And I would bet he's going to want to come and see the orchestrated version with that full orchestra behind. You know, look, I have a friend whom you may have heard of, a guy named Joe Piscopo. We know each other for years, and
Oh yeah,
and he is
yeah.
he is as in love with Frank Sinatra as you are with Neil Diamond. And Piscopo plays like 7 instruments. He does a stage show paying homage to Sinatra. And he got to meet Sinatra, obviously, I was going to say before Sinatra died, clearly before Sinatra died. But one of the things Sinatra told him was, "Hey, kid, seen your show. Not bad. Little work, not bad. I get a kick out of that." But that from Sinatra's like getting the ordination, like, okay, you got it. You got that blessing. So I'm glad that even if he hasn't talked to you after you started the show, at least you got to have that contact with Neil Diamond. It's sort of like a passing on of
Yeah.
the spirit, if you will. So that's a good thing. Now, you captured this entire concert live in front of 10,000 people back in 2023. You turned it, as you mentioned, into the documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. What's it like performing in front of 10,000 people, and what can viewers expect from the film if they check it out?
Oh my, yeah, that was just incredible. It was my hometown. It was a big amphitheater here on Long Island in East Meadow, the Harry Chapin Theater. Since then, we do it now regularly every summer, and more people come just to look out and just to have that just sea of people throughout the entire night. And then at the end, everybody doing Sweet Caroline. It was a dream come true. It was a dream come true. And on the video, you see everything on the movie, the film. We talk about the show. My family is involved, of course. How I met the band, and it's incredible. And excuse me, we do it again this summer. Last summer it was even bigger, and this summer it's going to be right after the 4th of July, and it gets bigger and bigger out there every year.
Robert, let's talk about what's coming up here in New Jersey. You're performing at the Lavoie Theater in Millville, March 9th, and what can fans expect from that live experience?
They're gonna have a great time. They're absolutely gonna have it. Like you said, whether they like Neil Diamond or they don't like Neil Diamond, they do have the stories of Neil Diamond, whether it's from their family or whether they first heard their first song. And it's just an incredible night of nostalgia. And it's not just a tribute show. It's not just, oh, let's go and listen to some music. We now have an incredible multimedia projection show that plays throughout the entire show. We have all the aspects. We have a full horn section, and we do 24 songs now. We added a couple of songs. We have a whole movie of Neil Diamond that shows during Brooklyn Roads, song that we just added. It's unlike anything else, and people need to see it because it's incredible. It really is.
And you're going to be doing the performance literally an hour away from where he was born and raised in Brooklyn, which is kind of cool too, to be in the metro. And for anybody watching who is ready to sing along to "Sweet Caroline," God, I'm sorry to do that. Where can they get more info and grab tickets for the show, Robert?
Yeah, go to the website. You can go to the LavoieTheater.com. I think they have, I think it's LavoieTheater.com, or my own website, www.sogoodtheneildiamondexperience.com. We're also going to be in northern New Jersey next year at the Grunin Center, at the Mayo. We're going to be at the Mayo Pack as well, and those tickets are almost all sold out. So all this year. So we just added 3 more shows this year in the United States. So we're going strong. Go to the website, follow the concert tour, and I hope to see everybody out there. I do a meet and greet, and we just have the best time. We really do.
But just before we let you go, did you think when you started this it was going to take off at this point, this level, and continue this long?
Uh, I humbly say yes. I set
Good for
out to
you.
do this, and I said I'm going to make this the best Neil Diamond tribute that I can. I've always had the passion of acting and performing, and I wanted to do something that only I could do because I couldn't rely on the business anymore. Just sitting waiting for the next audition or waiting for the next show to book. So I just said I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it right. And here we are. It just keeps growing. It just keeps growing.
Well, I wish you well, sir. I can't wait to check it
Thank you.
out with the orchestra. That's going to be amazing. Robert Neary, the star of So Good, the Neil Diamond Experience. Check it out on Amazon too, Amazon Prime, and then go see him in person live. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. You're amazing.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Good morning.
All right, you too. Thank you. It is now 32 degrees. Our time 7:55. Let's get a quick hit of weather if Mike is standing by because we ran long there. Mike, I'm sorry to do that to you. I always do this to Mike. Poor man is trying to get the weather ready, and then he's like, "Rosato, really?" But Mike, only because it's such a going to be such a nice morning here. We're
Hmm.
looking at a mild day. Well,
We're looking at a very mild day. Yeah, a very mild Fat Tuesday, but storms on the way for tomorrow. So I think the ashes might be dripping down, Catholics' foreheads tomorrow afternoon with the rain that comes in, rain and wind at that. And I have a question for Ken coming up. See, I'm going to give Ken a little bit of a preview about the curveball I'm about to throw him because it something that always I wondered about. Our forecast this afternoon brings back a milder feel. Now, granted, there will be some extra clouds this morning, but after those clouds part for mostly sunny skies, we will see these highs well into the upper 50s, maybe even some low 60s with the sunshine returning. So that'll feel very pleasant. Then we head after the storms tomorrow, the wind on Thursday. We tap into some nice dry weather by Friday. It'll be a touch cooler, but we welcome the sun back for the end of the work week and maybe even some light rounds of rain mixed with some snowflakes at night, Friday night into Saturday morning. I think Saturday afternoon is ultimately dry, but there could be some nearby moisture for Sunday. That Sunday could have another quick sprinkle by the overnight hours. So again, while the daylight hours of this weekend will be dry, Saturday climbs to 50 as the high, a little bit of a westerly breeze, and then cooler northwest winds by Sunday start to cool us down by 40 in the afternoon. It will be a chilly finish to the week, but I think you'll notice the rain that comes in tomorrow brings in a little bit more of that wet weather to get things a little damp around here, and then we dry it out by Thursday and Friday. Okay, Ken. So the question I have for
yes.
you is that why, if for Ash Wednesday, do the American priests make the sign of the cross and ashes on the forehead, but in Europe they sprinkle the ashes over the forehead?
Well, you see now, you do know that I was a Catholic priest,
Uh-huh.
or do you not know that?
I do. That's why I'm
Okay.
asking.
So Oh, okay. So, now you actually put me on the spot because I would say that one represents death and one represents resurrection, or one is humility and one is repentance. Am I in the ballpark at all, or?
I'm asking you. I have no idea. This is my question. Just the
No,
experience
I
of.
just we were taught to make a cross. That's how I was
Oh,
taught
okay,
in seminary. So
okay.
so is
And
there?
then and
But
then
I
in
didn't know.
Europe,
Maybe my
everybody does they sprinkle the ashes, and I was like, this is totally different. What's going on?
I wonder maybe if it came out of the more Orthodox tradition, because the Orthodox Church does it, and the Anglican or Episcopal Church does it too. Because the Episcopal Church, when it broke away, was still considered. They consider themselves the Catholic Church of England. They never
Okay.
considered themselves so much a breakaway as well. We can get into theology, but that's. I will call my bishop, and I will ask him. He's retired now, but I
Okay.
will find out before we end the show. I will get you an answer.
This sounds exciting. I can't wait.
All right. I know everybody's hanging on to their seats. I feel like, Ken, come on, move on. All right, Mike, thank you very much, sir. We'll be checking in with you in just a couple. I appreciate you. It is 7:58 now, 34 degrees, and you can see now the temperature is going to be coming up through the day as we head to the low 60s, Mike was telling us. And when we come back, folks fed up with the cold weather looking to escape, Well, maybe they could escape today. It's going to be nice. Erik, the travel guy, Hastings, is going to be in with some cruise tips you will want to hear. And again, meteorologist Mike Pavetta will be back again. Partly sunny, windy, milder today, highs in the low 60s. And we will take your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. New Jersey on New Jersey Mornings is coming right back. And a very good morning. It is Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, taking your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. Partly cloudy, windy, milder today, highs up to the low 60s. Meteorologist Mike Pavetta is back. Mike, I got you your answer already because my retired bishop was actually watching and he actually texted me. So the answer is, and it says, let's see, he said, Ken, you should know this. Sorry. He says that the sprinkling on the crown of the head recalls the biblical method of putting on sackcloth and ashes as a sign of penance. So they would literally cover their whole body. It wouldn't just be a smudge. Back in the Middle Ages, Christians would cover their whole body, literally their whole face, everything would be sackcloth and ashes because you literally you wanted to stand out as being repentant. This was punishment.
Wow.
That's what they
Okay.
used to do to people who were punished legally. They would sackcloth and ashes to embarrass them so they would stand out. So that's why it wasn't just a little smudge on the forehead, which is symbolic. They literally coated you in ashes. It wasn't even just a little sprinkling on the head. And that's why they still had the sprinkling on the forehead. Now you know. Told you I would let you
I
before the
know.
end of
Thank you so much. Look at that little drought and theology lesson all wrapped up into one. You can't get that anywhere else.
Oh, by the way, Mike, there you go. You're all set.
Thank you with the absolution. Hey, our forecast looking a little dry going into this afternoon, and it has been dry drought-wise with this ongoing rain deficit that takes us back even through the late summer months. If you remember, the fall was very dry. We had one of the driest periods from September to October and into November, and now we keep that dry weather around with the ongoing drought persisting. Even though we had above average rainfall in some portions of New Jersey, like there toward Mount Holly, that weather station picking up an above average amount, the rest of the state staying below average for the last 30 days. Going forward, I think there are some great opportunities for some rain, but it's going to take a while just to make up for the month's rainfall deficit of up to an inch up in Sussex and even down toward Cape May. A lot of the systems that came through New Jersey bringing rain this past month have kind of worked across the central portion of the state. Now, in terms of how warm it will be over the next few weeks, remember, as we head toward the middle of the month, even though you see a lot of red here, just 1 degree above average increases our chances of having above average weather. And that may very well be the case. So it may not be a heat wave, but still slightly above average weather across the east, slightly below average weather if you're traveling out west in the next few weeks. In terms of dryness and how much moisture we can expect, well, there's a lot of wet weather out west. This is their, flash flood and mudslide season out on the west coast. Our weather slightly wetter than average. So we'll take that, given that we could use some wet weather around here, given how dry it's been. 7-day forecast has plenty of sun today with the afternoon clouds breaking for some sun, helping highs climb into the low 60s in some portions of the state. Then the rain that comes in tomorrow is primarily in the late afternoon and early evening with some storms, and that line of wet weather provides That's gusty winds, maybe even some small hail, as those storms could be strong to severe. It clears out by Thursday with some lingering clouds, but the full sun returns on Friday with calmer conditions and a high of only 50. Look at that. We're back down below the freezing mark at night. Saturday and Sunday also sees a little bit of a cooling trend, and then we take that dry weather into next week. The shore points, a little bit cooler this time of year. This is usually the time of year where it warms up quickly, interior sections of New Jersey, but along the coast doesn't get that warm thanks to a wind off of the water, especially with a sea breeze every afternoon, because the ocean temperature is still 39 degrees. Saturday and Sunday sees a mix of clouds and sun, but we're back to sunshine. 29 degrees to start Monday, only climbing to 46, which is, believe it or not, average for the third week of March. We'll take another check of your forecast, talk more about the storms for tomorrow, show you where they are now. It's all coming up, Ken, with another check of your forecast in a few minutes.
Heck, I'll take average over 16 degrees anytime, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mike.
You bet.
It is 34 degrees now at 8:04. In terms of traffic, we have a disabled vehicle. Routes 1 and 9 truck route southbound north of Hackensack River Drawbridge in Jersey City. A right lane is closed right now. We have a disabled vehicle on the Garden State Parkway southbound exiting at exit 130BA, which is US 1 in Woodbridge Township. The right lane is closed on the exit ramp for 130B. We have emergency construction, that sinkhole on I-80 eastbound exit 34 in Wharton, Route 15. All lanes are still closed and being detoured. And we have delays on Route 9 northbound by Central Avenue in Lakewood Township. All lanes are open, but there are delays due to volume. 8:05 right now. Tired of winter yet? Well, today's going to give you a little taste of spring, but maybe a cruise is in your future. Erik the Travel Guy Hastings is an experienced Emmy Award-winning television personality who has hosted or produced thousands of travel videos since 2005, and he's only 24 years old. Erik's content speaks directly to those who can't afford to get their vacations wrong. He's laughing, I hear him. He's the host and managing editor of the internationally syndicated TV series Beyond Your Backyard and his weekly podcast on travel. And he has lots of great travel tips on the website, Erik with a K, erikthetravelguy.com. And here he is now, ladies and gentlemen, Erik the Travel Guy Hastings with my best worst announcer voice. Erik, good morning, sir.
Ken, I don't know who wrote that intro, but they did make the Christmas card list. So we don't have time for the segment, but that's okay.
Hey, listen, sometimes some of us do the homework and actually look at the website. I'm just saying. So listen,
Yes.
how do we plan for a cruise? What's the best way to do that?
I think certainly first-time cruisers, the cruise industry has the highest retention rate in all of travel. And what that means is when people cruise for the first time, I hear it time and time again, they come back. And why do they come back? Because they find out that cruising is not the only type of vacation to take, but especially if you're looking to explore a new destination, a cruise is a perfect way to learn about that particular region. And so, but again, once they start digging into it, they go, oh my gosh, there's so many cruises, there's so many ports, there's so many places, there's so many options, and they get a little overwhelmed, they get a little fatigued, but I've got it all handled for you, Ken. And I can't remember if you and I have talked about your personal cruise experience or not. So I don't know. Are you a fan of cruising, Ken, or no? I don't remember.
I've never been on I would like to, but my husband will not get on a ship because when he was 12, his ship, the only ship he was ever on, sailed out in a tropical depression, and he was so violently ill for a week that he says that we'd get divorced. So I'm not allowed to go on a cruise with him. That's that. So if I go, you and I'll go.
I was going to say, I guess you and I'll go. We'll bring some friends and have a nice time. We can take pictures. Well, I think that's one of the first questions that they ask a lot. Am I going to get sick? Am I going to get the norovirus? Am I going to get seasick? And the reality of it is, statistically speaking, the answer is no. But if you're looking to plan a cruise for the first time, I want you to ask some very fundamental questions and make some quick decisions that are going to point you in the right direction and begin to narrow down your search. And the first question is whether or not you're going to go on an ocean cruise or a rivet cruise. Now, if you're a first-time cruiser, I would suggest you start on the ocean and graduate into the river. I think most of my river cruise peeps out there would agree. Ocean's a great way to start. And I say that because there's more variety, there are more options. So river or ocean, that's the first thing. Next thing, let's talk about duration. you can go on a cruise for 2 nights. A lot of times we call those booze cruises. But here's what to remember. Or you could take a world cruise and be gone for 2 years. Here's what to remember with the duration. The shorter the duration, a lot of times the crowd is younger. Okay, so just remember, whatever that means to you, just remember it does matter who's on board with you. You really do want to find the right line and the duration can help you with that. And what I mean by that is if it's an older crowd or a younger crowd, somebody who they're more interested in nature or education or more interested in partying, whatever it is, there is a ship and there is a line for you, and the duration will help you with that. First time cruisers, 5 days would be minimum for me. Now sometimes that's 5 nights, 4 nights, depending, because that's going to give you a good idea of what it feels like on board. So those are the first two things that I would suggest, Ken, right off the bat. And then of course, destination. Where are you going?
So should one contact a travel advisor then who knows all the cruises and has heard back from all the clients as to, this was good or this one sucked or this one was packed or this one they were full of drunks, I mean, boy, yes, you could say sucked on a streaming channel. So, what's the best? Or do you just ask your friends or go to the Erik the Travel Guy Hastings website? What's the best way to do it?
You're right. Again, much like travel, cruising is very personal. So again, what's right for you may not be what's right for someone else. Now, a cruise expert, a travel advisor, if you don't have one, ask around on Instagram or on Facebook. Ask your friends if they've got an advisor or what used to be called a travel agent who I would tell you specifically are experts in cruising. And you can get real specific with this is an expert in Caribbean cruising. This is an expert in family cruising, Mediterranean, Alaska, Hawaii. Those are the big cruise destinations worldwide. And yeah, when you solicit help from that entity, and if you don't have an agent, go to ASTA.com, the American Society of Travel Advisors. A travel advisor those services will be free to you or very close to free. And they make their money on the other side, and they will guide you to the right ship for you based on your criteria. How long do you want to be gone? Where do you want to go? Whether or not are you bringing the whole family or is it a couples thing?
Do you ever have to worry about a travel advisor representing a certain cruise line or getting a certain commission from a cruise line so that they'll advise you to go and point you in the direction of a certain cruise line over others? Does that ever happen?
What I know about that question is that is a logical question to ask, but I know you, Ken, don't actually want to know the answer to that because it's a very pessimistic view of the world, and you don't see the world that way, nor do I. Of course, travel agents or travel advisors make commissions. Does that influence their decisions? I suppose, but you can go ahead and just ask them. I've said to agents before, I could go to A or B. I like A or B. What do you like? And by the way, what are you making more commission on? I've said that to agents before or advisors, because why not? If it's all the same to me. But remember, agents want advisors want clients for life, right? They want you to have a good time. They want you to enjoy yourself. They want you to come back and use their services again. So they have a vested interest in making sure, you have a wonderful time.
That makes sense. I never thought about it that way. That's almost the same argument as this is why you get paid the big bucks. It's the same argument as when somebody's nervous to get on a plane, you say, well, the pilot wants to get there safely just like you do. So it's just trust the pilot.
Yeah, absolutely.
They want you.
And I think I'm glad you mentioned that
ahead.
too, because again, I don't know how much time we have, but number one, I always tell people, remember, Port of Miami is the largest cruise port in the world, right? It's the busiest cruise. So you've got Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Everglades, Tampa. You can cruise out of New York. You can cruise out of New Orleans. Wherever you're cruising from, if you don't live in that town, please arrive the night before. And yes, you're going to have a safe flight. Yes, the pilot wants to get there too. But that brings up an excellent point, which is on the cruise. Safety and security and the health of the passengers is something they take seriously. And I don't mean to turn the interview here and make it a thing, but they're not kidding around when they say, we want you to attend the safety demonstration. We want you to understand what's going on. The likelihood of being involved in an event is so remote But if there is something that happens out of the ordinary, they are prepared for it. And that especially is true when you get a few thousand people together. You're going to have illness. You're going to have, somebody, 10 people are going to get sick. It happens from time to time. So you wash your hands, you take your precautions, and they take it seriously as well.
And what about insurance? Does it make sense to buy travel insurance when you're getting on a cruise, especially if you've never been on that particular cruise line before?
I recommend insurance, especially if you have pre-existing health conditions. It's really more for evacuation. And again, the likelihood of needing emergency surgery, even when you're in the Caribbean, that can be rather expensive. So I say yes, depending upon where you're going. The further you are from home, wait, is it farther or further, Ken? Oh my gosh, I always get tripped up by that. The farther you are from home, the farther we are, we can discuss it further, but the farther you are from your home, I suggest insurance. Absolutely. It's
And that's,
not
by the way,
expensive
that's
for
the
a couple
rule,
of
right? By the way, if it's actual distance, it's farther. If it's meaning I want to extend something in terms of diction, then it's further. That's how I was taught. So thank you
further.
for bringing that. And now we have addiction. So we've had theology this morning on the show, diction. See what you learn here?
Mom would
If
be
you were
very proud.
to well, either that or very embarrassed, probably the second. How does one select the best cruise value and avoid a cruise nightmare like we mentioned earlier, an overly packed ship? So you're saying the first thing to do is look for the longer durations. But if I'm, say, for instance, I like to, and I know I sound like an old curmudgeon, I don't want to be surrounded by 500 kids when I go on a cruise. I want quiet. So in that case, should I look for the longer duration and maybe just you get what you pay for? Is that what you're looking at this point?
I think it's interesting. The first time I was on Royal Caribbean's, I think it was one of the Icon classes. Remember, the largest cruise ship in the world is the Icon of the Seas, 2,800 cabins. It's a lot of people. It's 5,000 people on board. And I remember we were shooting an episode of the TV series, and I remember walking through one of the main promenades, and I was like, wow, it doesn't really feel like I'm traveling with 5,000 other people. Yeah, there are other people around me, but it doesn't feel like that. Cruise lines are very good at dispersing their guests, and those ships are larger than you can imagine. But I can tell you right off the top, if you don't want to travel with kids, don't get on the Disney Cruise Line. You may be a Disney person, but if you don't want to be around children, don't be on that. I would travel during the school year. The likelihood of having children on board goes down just a little bit. And your advisor will point you in the right direction of this line is not very kid friendly. Look at Virgin would be one where you just have adults on board. So yeah, there are certain parameters that are pretty easy to navigate if you ask the right question. And by the way, you can ask the line itself. That's another thing that people don't realize. If you have a question about Carnival, you should call Carnival because Carnival owns Princess, Carnival. They're the largest cruise operator in the world. They have 14 brands that they operate ships on. And you say, I don't want to be on the board with kids. I don't want to be on the board with young people. I want to be all old people, right? 75 plus, the wheelchair brigade, we call them. Fine. They'll tell you, well, go on a Cunard ship out of Brooklyn. No problem. I mean, it doesn't, the cruise industry.
They have more emergency rooms on board than they do have staterooms.
Again, the cruise line is ambivalent. They don't care. They're like, hey, if that's your thing. Some people don't like to travel with casinos on board. Okay, there are ships that don't have casinos on board. And by the way, Ken, most likely for you, to be just frank, I would tell you to go on a river cruise. I think you would love the education, getting into the smaller ports. It's usually a little more upscale crowd because you're kind of fancy, Ken. You're a little fancy, like me. So that's why we get along. You're learning something. You're having excellent food. You're with like-minded people who can, afford to take a week off or 10 days off. I would tell you that right away over river. And Chris,
and you're in smooth. It's smoother. You don't have to worry about rough waters because the river.
Well,
how rough can the river be? I mean, for the most part.
Look, first of all, I mean, hello, we invented radar. It's not like, the cruise ships. It's not by chance, and it's the Caribbean. If you're in the Caribbean. It's one of the calmest seas in the world is the Caribbean. So you're floating around, these boats, they don't go as fast as they can go. They avoid storms. And by the way, they say, well, here's what happens sometimes. But people do complain about this, and I appreciate the fact that they do. But occasionally, you'll be in a tender port. Okay, now this is rare. A tender port means that the boat or the ship anchors out at sea, and then you take a smaller boat into the port because it's not deep enough for a big ship to get in there. It's called a tender port. Well, occasionally the wind will be just high enough that the tendering is it's complicated and can be dangerous. And dangerous meaning not just the going there, but it's the getting on and off the tender boat that usually poses the biggest danger. So they avoid that port and they go somewhere else. And that happens. But there's so many options in the Caribbean. You may not go to this port, but you'll go to that port that day. So it happens from time to time. Again, safety is a big thing to them.
All right. Well, this is great advice. Now I want to go book a cruise. Travel expert Erik the Travel Guy Hastings, found at Erik with a K, erikthetravelguy.com. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, my friend. We'll check in with you again next week.
Thank you, my friend.
You bet. Have a good day. It is now 34 degrees at 8:19, and when we come back, meteorologist Mike Favetta has the latest Garden State forecast. It looks like it's going to be partly sunny, partly cloudy, breezy, but milder today, highs up to the low 50s before rain comes in tomorrow. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings, which you can stream at ONNJ.com, Roku, Fire TV, News on Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X, and we stream now on Rumble and Twitch. Go to twitch.tv/OnNewJersey. Back in a minute. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato, 34 degrees now at 8:20. Meteorologist Mike Favetta is saying not a bad day at all. Partly sunny, windy, milder, highs into the low 60s. My eyes, I thought were just hitting me. Mike now has the detailed Garden State forecast. Morning to you, Michael.
Good morning, Ken. It'll feel.
Calling you Michael. I'm sorry. Good morning, Mike.
No, it's
Forgive
fine.
me.
It's all good. It's fine. We start off this morning with a really chilly feel, plenty of great weather to enjoy. And then with the weather turning up, the heat this afternoon, it'll really feel mild. Even though we started off this morning down around freezing, even below that number there in Morristown at 30, we're quickly climbing through the 40s, and we'll do so from Ship Bottom in Atlantic City with our temperatures well on their way into the 60s, except if you find yourself along the shore. Look at these wind gusts at 8:21 this morning, 24 miles an hour coming off of a 39-degree Atlantic Ocean. That's why the wind chill in AC is 34 degrees. Even up in Hackensack, feels like 30, and back over toward Flemington, 32. The afternoon will feel much milder thanks to a solid amount of sunshine that comes into our forecast, even though it already feels anywhere from 7 to 17 degrees warmer than this time yesterday. It's baby steps, getting in the right direction, starting to feel like spring as the clouds this morning begin to break up this afternoon. So yes, there are some thickening clouds around, but there's also some breaks in those clouds that are appearing down south, and that's ultimately what takes our highs well above average this afternoon. The futurecast in through the rest of the day sees those clouds break up by the lunch hour, and it helps temperatures climb to 60 in Trenton, 57 in Flemington, 52 in Morristown, 58 in Mount Holly. Cooler along the coast with that wind off of the water, and stays nice and dry through this evening. Tomorrow morning is where the clouds return, showers by midday, and look at that line of storms. Impressive. I have a feeling that those severe risks might be elevated by this time tomorrow when the updates come in from the Storm Prediction Center, because that's a pretty potent storm front that will whip across the state, bring in some gusty winds, potential for some small hail, obviously thunder and lightning, and with that, a good soaking of rain just in time for the evening rush, and it all clears out by 9-10 o'clock tomorrow night. When that moves through, we'll be left with a few batches of, say, clouds and sun through the afternoon Thursday, but I think the winds switching direction will make it feel much cooler by the time we get to Friday. So a little taste of spring with a little spring-like thunderstorm that comes in tomorrow, Ken. Could be worse because that's the same system that brings in some really severe weather like tornadoes into the Midwest. So it weakens a lot by the time it arrives here in New Jersey. Yeah.
But that's because of the warm and cold air clashes, right? That's what happens at the change of seasons,
This is the
so
time
to
of year
say.
that it occurs. The severe weather outbreaks begin in March and April.
And by the way, this is coincidentally the same time that you hear, we never used to have this weather. Ever, ever, never happened before.
Yeah.
Never, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it has. It happens every year. We just forget. All right, meteorologist Mike Favetta, thank you so much, sir. We'll check back with you in just a little bit. It is 34 degrees now. The time is 8:23. In terms of traffic, we have a disabled vehicle on 1 and 9 truck route southbound north of Hackensack River Drawbridge in Jersey City. The right lane is closed. We have a disabled vehicle on the Garden State Parkway, and that is southbound. Of course, it just popped off my screen as I'm saying that. It's in the Garden State Parkway southbound, exiting exit 130BA. That's Route 1 in Woodbridge Township. A right lane is closed on the exit ramp for exit 130B. And we now have a crash. This is what just popped up on I-287 southbound north of exit 34 in Morris Township. A left lane is closed. Still have that sinkhole, of course. Eastbound I-80 at exit 34 in Wharton Township. Everybody's being detoured off. That's like a 30 to 60 minute delay that's been causing. It's going to continue for at least another week or two. So beware, but it is for your safety. 8:24 now, 34 degrees. And how about a nice big bowl of Nutria? Nutria sounds like a new type of cereal from Europe. Yummy, yummy, but it's not. It's an animal. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is urging Americans to fill their bellies with this invasive species of rodent. It's wreaking havoc on habitats across the nation. As part of its National Invasive Species Awareness Week, the agency released a list of 5 invasive creatures that they're encouraging people to hunt and eat as a way to protect native types of animals. At the top of the list is the nutria. For those of you wondering what it is, it's a large water-loving rodent. It looks a lot like a beaver without the flat tail. It's even fatter. It's like a big, ugly, fat beaver. Nutria are native to the swamps of South America. They were brought to the U.S. by fur traders in the 1930s. But again, the problem is they eat so much, they starve out all the other animals in the habitat. So environmental folks are saying, eat them, eat them. By the way, another big species that's has invaded an area, South Florida, has pythons in the waters, in the swamps, and they eat up all the waterfowl and whatnot. So people are being told to hunt them and eat them too. Yum. Okay. When you think of people getting stung by scorpions, this is the animal segment, you can tell. You think of it happening in a desert in the nation's southwest, not in New England, right? Well, over the weekend, a woman at Boston International Airport was trying to get her bags off the moving platform and she got stung. It's not known how the scorpion got there. Naturally, it is not native to Boston. The woman was taken to an area hospital. No word on her condition. Iconic singer Dolly Parton announced the passing of her husband of nearly half a century yesterday. His name was Carl Dean. He died at the age of 82. The two met in 1964. They married in 1966. And in spite of all the years they've been together, Carl, who was an asphalt contractor, continued doing his job, by the way, chose to remain in the background. He liked his life and was happy not being on the stage or being famous. The two would have celebrated their 59th anniversary in just a few months in May. Our time now is 8:25, and what appears to be the perfect example of the slow death of traditional television, this year's Academy Awards on Sunday evening, while still producing a respectable audience of just over 18 million, was down by over 7% year to year. That is a plummet. As people gradually change their viewing habits to streaming services and fast channels like ONNJ and using their phones for headlines, traditional broadcast TV has seen the biggest audience decline of any entertainment medium. It is now 8:27. New York Governor Kathy Hochul running digital ads in Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, inviting federal workers who got laid off to come work for New York State. And while this sounds like a noble gesture, the liberal Democrat doesn't seem to learn that gestures like this are what cost the Democrats the presidential election. See, New York State is currently experiencing a near $5 billion budget shortfall. It's one of the highest tax states in the entire nation. It's in such bad shape, of course, it just had to introduce congestion pricing to try to keep the crumbling MTA trains still rolling on the tracks, yet somehow they think it's a good idea to hire people who were laid off from federal jobs because they were considered extraneous and unnecessary. Quick question, Governor Hochul. With what money do you plan on hiring these people when the state is $5 billion in debt? And if they were laid off because they weren't doing their jobs to begin with, or because their jobs were deemed unnecessary by the federal government, what jobs do you plan on giving them in New York that are so very necessary? Okay. It is 8:28 now. Today is Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras translates as Fat Tuesday. The word mardi in French means Tuesday, and gras, G-R-A-S, means fat. So Fat Tuesday. It is the last day before the Christian season of Lent. Lent is, of course, the 40-day period of repentance as Christians prepare for the celebration of Easter, the resurrection of Christ. Now, traditionally, we say that Lent is a period of 40 days, but actually, if you look at a calendar, it's 46 days. The reason we say 40 days is Christians don't count Sundays in Lent as times of penitence because Sundays represent the resurrection of Christ. So there's a trivia question you could ask people at parties this coming weekend. Hey, why do you think we say 40 days when it's 46 days? I'm not saying you talk like that, whatever. And why do you think they call it Fat Tuesday? Well, tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, and in Catholic and Orthodox churches, Ash Wednesday is a day of fasting. Now, the Orthodox Church is celebrating at a different time this year. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they don't. But this is specifically for the Catholics, that tomorrow is Ash Wednesday. Over the centuries, Christians would eat all of their extra food on Fat Tuesday, so wouldn't be in the house to nibble on from Ash Wednesday on, and thus would not go bad. Many cultures celebrate by doing everything from throwing parades on this day to making stacks of pancakes. They call it Shrove Tuesday in the English church, the Anglican church. They make other sweet desserts too. Tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, as I mentioned, when Christians get ashes on their forehead for humility and to remind them of their mortality. Meteorologist Mike Favetta and I were talking about that a little while ago. And Mike has been saying that New Jersey is in a drought for months. Well, now here's proof of what he's been saying. Wildfire season is supposed to begin later this month, but hundreds of acres have already burned in Salem and Mercer counties. Fire officials say 90% of the fire is contained, but nearly 300 acres have burned. Luckily, nobody was forced to evacuate. New Jersey's wildfire season, the time that we tend to be driest and most at risk of wildfires, runs March 15th to May 15th. And a new report shows 60% of all adults worldwide will be overweight or obese by 2050. Medical experts say this poses an unparalleled threat of early death, disease, and enormous strain on healthcare systems. There are now 2.11 billion adults aged 25 or above and 493 million children aged 5 to 24, young people or children, all overweight or obese. That's up from 731 million and 198 million, respectively, just back in 1990. Without some kind of action, more than half of those aged 25 or above worldwide, and about a third of all children and young people, will be affected with obesity by 2050. The study published in the respected medical journal, The Lancet. And yesterday, the Republican-led Senate voted to confirm Linda McMahon as the new Secretary of the U.S. Department of Education. McMahon is a former professional wrestling magnate worth hundreds of millions who led the Small Business Administration during President Trump's first term. She was confirmed by a party line 51-45 vote. McMahon previously served on the Connecticut State Board of Ed. During her confirmation hearing, McMahon decried a public education system now in decline and vowed to reorient the department. And a New York Times report shows President Trump's unrelenting crackdown on drug cartels, pressure on Mexico, is hitting the narcos where it hurts. A wave of arrests and drug seizures has forced cartel bosses to scale back their operations, to lay off their workers, and even go underground as the big Sinaloa cartel reels from the onslaught in its home state. The report paints a picture of a cartel empire rattled by Trump's aggressive tactics, with labs shutting down and leaders ducking for cover as Mexico's government unleashes a barrage of enforcement. It is 34 degrees now at 8:29, actually 8:31, excuse me, when On New Jersey Mornings returns. What's causing young people to feel pressured to not return to school? We will discuss the growing problem with an expert. Plus, meteorologist Mike Favetta will be back. It'll be partly sunny, windy, milder today, highs in the low 60s, and we will take your calls at 888-658-0234, 888-658-0234. On New Jersey Mornings is coming right back. A very good morning to you. 8:33. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. Partly sunny, windy, milder today. Highs way up to the low 60s before rain comes in tomorrow. Meteorologist Mike Favetta with the complete Garden State forecast for us. Good morning to you, Mike.
Hey, Ken, good morning. It's going to feel fantastic this afternoon beyond the morning clouds, which are currently on their way out. Already see some breaks of sun towards southern New Jersey. Full on clearing this afternoon will send highs into the low 60s. It'll feel great with a little bit of a southerly breeze, cooler along the shoreline locations along the Atlantic. But beyond that, it'll be a very nice, pleasantly mild and spring like feel to the day. Tomorrow morning starts off mild in the mid 40s with clouds and a few spotty sprinkles, which really get going during the lunch hour into the early afternoon. Temperatures again tomorrow could hit the upper 50s again before the torrents of rain come in by tomorrow late afternoon around 4 or 5 o'clock. A severe, potentially severe line of storms that could bring gusts in excess of 58 miles per hour, some small hail, and those damaging winds, of course, the thunder and lightning as well. That takes over throughout the evening rush. So it's just as kids are getting home from school. By the time the evening rush is in full swing through 5 or 6 o'clock, that's when that front is really kind of cranking through New Jersey, giving us that steady rain lasting through 8 or 9 o'clock and then ultimately clearing. We dry things out for Thursday, starting off mild and finishing a little breezy with a mix of sun and clouds, but it's all due to a rather large storm system that's currently centered over the Midwest, moves over the Great Lakes, but pulls in a very warm fetch of air with a lot of energy that helps fuel that storm in advance of the cold front, which comes through tomorrow evening. So until then, we'll enjoy the mild weather as temperatures will climb into the mid and low 50s today across the coastline, and then the upper 50s near 60 degrees a little further inland in central New Jersey. Wind forecasts. Now, this is more of a generic, wind forecast across New Jersey. Doesn't pinpoint exactly how gusty it could be tomorrow because there could be higher gusts, especially with that front pushing in. We'll likely see those gusts as high as 40 or 50 miles per hour with that front moving across the state tomorrow evening. If it gets above 58 miles per hour, that's when it's considered severe, and the Weather Service issues the severe thunderstorm warning. But in terms of today, plan on a little bit of a calm breeze, making it feel very pleasant. Here's the storm right now over the Midwest, moving across the lakes, and it's pulling in all of that warm air for us to enjoy today with the clearing, and then we'll tap into the severe weather by tomorrow afternoon. Beyond that, Friday into Saturday look quite clear. In fact, it'll be a nice dry way to finish out the week. There could be a few spotty sprinkles around for Saturday morning. That clears by the afternoon, and then another round of potentially wet weather by Sunday night. But during the daylight hours, I think will feature a fair amount of sunshine with highs climbing to 50 on Saturday, cooling by Sunday, only 40 degrees there. So looking like a little bit of a cooler finish to the weekend. As we head into March, I think we have much more opportunity to see a warming trend. We'll talk more about that on the 7-day forecast, Ken. It's coming up in just a bit.
All right, you bet, Mike. Thank you. 34 degrees now. Our time is 8:36. And in terms of traffic, we have I-287 southbound north of exit 34 in Morris Township. A left lane is closed due to a crash there. Disabled vehicle on US 1 and 9, the truck route. And this is southbound north of Hackensack River Drawbridge in Jersey City. A right lane is closed. Delays on 280 westbound ramp to westbound east of I-80 in Parsippany Troy Hills. All lanes are open, but there are delays through there due to volume. And delays on Route 4 eastbound from west of New Jersey Turnpike, GW Bridge in Englewood to west of Routes 1 and 9 in Fort Lee. Travel time there's about 5 to 10 minutes, a little slowdown, not too horrible. Of course, we still have the closure. I-80 eastbound at exit 34 in Wharton, and that is due to the big sinkhole, that 40 by 40 foot sinkhole, and a second sinkhole that opened nearby. Officials there are making sure that there are no further sinkholes that could be compromising the ground in the area. It could be a couple of weeks before that's opened up. In the meantime, everybody getting detoured off, expect 30 to 60 minutes in delays through local roads in order to bypass that. Again, our temperature now is 34 degrees at 8:37, and we have a growing concern for young people across the country, the financial pressures keeping them from returning to school. A new report from study.com reveals that nearly half of all potential students are haunted by past college debt, with 43% discouraged by previous experiences and 46% wary of taking on more loans. So what's driving the hesitation, and how is it reshaping the pursuit of higher education? Joining us now is Dana Bryson, Senior Vice President of Social Impact at Study.com, to break it all down for us. Dana, thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Ken. Thanks. Glad to be here.
You bet. Well, Dana, let's start with the big picture. Your recent report found 43% of young people are discouraged by all the past debt, and 46% don't want to borrow anymore. So how significant is this financial pressure in keeping students from returning to school? And what does it tell us about their mindset today?
Well, it's very significant, Ken. We did a national survey of 900 adults who had some college credit but no degree to find out, did they plan on going back to school? Why did they stop out or drop out of school? And the good news is we found out that half of them intended to go back to school to re-enroll. And so they really wanted to either complete their degree or advance their career to make more money, to get, financial advancement. But when we really dug into why they stopped, to your question, 75% of the respondents who were under 35 said debt. The financial pressure was just too much, and it was the reason that they stopped out of college.
Well, those are huge numbers, nearly half. I mean, 43 and 46%. So can you walk us through how the financial fears translate into the enrollment trends? And are we seeing now a measurable drop in students who are returning because of this? Or is it also because I know some students are now thinking about starting businesses or going into trade schools as opposed to taking on more debt in higher education?
Yeah, I think, and New Jersey's, tried to do a lot of work to support students going back to school, including promoting the fact that you're 53% more likely to have a higher wage if you go and get a post-secondary degree. But what we really heard was that half of the students, almost half, 45%, said even if they weren't in school, they could barely manage the financial burden that they had now. So the idea of going back to college and taking on more burden felt to be too much, and it was the stress of that. And half of them also said it made them cautious about borrowing any more money. 46% of the respondents said, I just don't feel okay borrowing more money for school, given the debt that I have. And so that was really a significant factor. When we really looked at there was one other significant factor in addition to debt, Ken, and that was just academic stress. And so they said almost as many as were concerned by the debt, 72% said it was the academic stress of managing children, parents, a household, another job, and trying to figure out how to go back to school as an adult or as a young adult that made them feel like it was going to be hard to do.
Well, I have spoken to so many people who said that their whole lives they were raised thinking, got to go to college, got to go to college, got to go to college, spend all this money. I have friends who are in the medical field who come out with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because it's really gotten out of control. I mean, you have colleges that have been endowed and everything has been paid for 100 years, yet they're still charging a fortune. If they just lived off of these colleges I'm talking about, if they just lived off of the investments, the return on the investments for their endowments, we wouldn't even have to charge tuition. They could live comfortably, pay their professors, pay their expenses, and still do quite well. But they're like the one aspect of society still charging exorbitant rates, and nobody seems to complain about it. I mean, they complain, but they still pay the money. I know I'm digressing here, but the point is, I hear from more people saying, you know what? For years, I told my kid, I don't want you to be a plumber. I don't want you to get your hands dirty. I don't want you to be an electrician. But yet, I know I had an electrician in my home last week who said that he went and got a degree in business and he couldn't get a job on Wall Street. He was laid off.
Right.
And now he is an electrician. He became an apprentice and now he's a master electrician. He said, I'm making more money than I ever made on Wall Street as an electrician. So
Right.
have we been pushing college for everybody? I mean, college is certainly great for a lot of people, but maybe it's not perfect for everybody.
No, I think that's exactly right. And that's definitely what we're hearing at study.com. There is a choice for everyone, and it can be to take courses towards a degree. It can be to earn a certificate. It can be to be in a trade, to be an apprentice. It can be to get, it doesn't always have to be that finite college degree. And you're also correct. We are seeing declining enrollment nationally in four-year colleges. And we're seeing an increase in what I would call the comebackers, the 40 million Americans with some college credit and no degree who are interested in taking bite-sized courses or approaching college in a way that's affordable. And there's a lot of options, including one that we offer through study.com, my company, where you can take, for a monthly fee, essentially, you can take college courses with a coach to get a degree at a four-year college. But the cost structure is completely different and you can do it on your time. And nationally, we're seeing more of that. I actually wanted to mention one other thing that we're doing at study.com because of this incredible problem of college debt. We launched the college debt payoff program where at the end of the month, you can enter at study.com, and at the end of the month, we're having a drawing to pay off up to $10,000 in college debt for 4 students, for 4 working adults. Because we know it's a little part that we can do, but we want to highlight the individuals whose lives would be changed if they didn't have this debt.
That is a huge deal. I mean, $10,000 is major. And, I think a lot of people think, well, if I'm going to Harvard, 10,000 isn't much. Yeah, but not everyone goes to Harvard. People going to community colleges, 10,000 pays a lot. That could pay for most of your tuition for the year, if not all of it. So that's a big
Well, that's
deal,
absolutely
for a
right.
general.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what we're seeing. And we really believe that college should be accessible and affordable to anyone who wants it. And I know that there are a lot of programs in New Jersey by the Office of Higher Ed that are helping to pay for college. There's tuition aid grants, there's New Jersey College Promise. I'm sure you and your listeners know of some of them, but we also wanted folks to know that there are other options. And that's what we're seeing as a trend nationally.
Well, you are Senior Vice President of Social Impact. So what steps does study.com see as critical to easing financial pressure? So do you just go to the website and learn about some of the approaches that you have, like you were talking about paying down the college debt, et cetera? Or are there things that people haven't looked at? I mean, ultimately, college loans still are at lower interest rates for the most part than other loans. So as long as people can keep up with them, should they just keep paying them? Or if they have the opportunity, should they just pay them off?
Well, it's hard to answer that. Went to graduate school and I am still paying my college loans from a fancy institution. So that was a question I was having in my own family last night. So I do understand that trade-off. I guess the point I'd like to make is that, if you want to go back to college, you can. There's an affordable way to do it. You have a lot of options for folks in New Jersey and in that area, also nationally. Companies like ours, study.com and others, offer affordable access to college credit that you can take for actually hundreds of dollars a month. You can take college courses to earn towards a degree. And that I think that folks need to understand that that's an option out there and give themselves a lot of grace. And if you want to go back to school, go get it done. Go get started.
That's good advice there. And if these trends continue, Dana, what might the long-term consequences be for this generation and even the broader workforce when it comes to education and economic mobility?
Well, I think there are a lot of issues nationally in the political scene that affect economic mobility and the rising gap between the have and have-nots. I think that economic mobility, still education is the key driver to being able to be in control of your own destiny there. And so I would encourage everyone who's interested to go back and look at a trade, look at a certificate, look at a way to advance your own economic self-determination, really, and for that and that of your family. And that the options don't have to be this, huge, many tens of thousand number to go to college. It can actually be, you can work while you go to school and you can afford it. And there's a way to get it done. And there are a lot of options out there, including many offered from the Office of Higher Ed in New Jersey.
All right, Dana Bryson, Senior Vice President of Social Impact at study.com. Ken, thank you enough for coming on this morning. Great
Thanks, Ken.
advice. And check out the website too, study.com. Easy to remember. Have a great day. And thanks. And please come back again.
I'll be back so much. Thank you.
I appreciate it. You bet. It is now 34 degrees. when On New Jersey Mornings returns. Meteorologist Mike Pavetta has the Garden State forecast. Partly sunny, windy, but milder. Highs into the low 50s. I keep saying 50s, low 60s, because my eyes think I'm being deceived by saying 60s. Then tomorrow we have some serious storms coming through the area, maybe thunderstorms. So beware of that for tomorrow. You're watching On New Jersey Mornings. You could stream us at ONNJ.com or on Roku, Fire TV, News On, Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And now we stream live on Rumble and Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv/OnNewJersey. We're back in a minute. Welcome back to On New Jersey Mornings. I'm Ken Rosato. It is 34 degrees now. The time is 8:49. Meteorologist Mike Pavetta saying partly sunny, windy, milder today. Let me get it right this time, Mike. Highs into the low 60s. That's almost my
60s.
age.
Yeah.
Here is
Nice.
Mike now with the detailed Garden State forecast on this Fat Tuesday. Yes, good morning, sir.
Don't look a day over 45. You look great, Ken. Our forecast
God bless.
today, very pleasant. Yeah, we start off this morning at Ken's age in the 40s, but we're back into the 60s this afternoon thanks to a lovely round of high pressure. Notice the clear sky and the high pressure creating that moves in for this afternoon, allowing for a beautiful finish to the day. And then we get whacked by a line of strong to severe storms tomorrow afternoon that pushes in along this cold front. After that cold front clears, it's not necessarily going to get super duper cold. There's actually another round of cold air that's off to the west that could provide another, say, sprinkle that arrives by the end of the day on Friday. And that will bring back another threat of cloud cover to start off early Saturday morning. But I think most of the day Saturday is nice and dry and starts off cool, but eventually turns chilly by the end of the weekend. So for today, as the sun returns, we enjoy the mid to upper 50s, getting into the low 60s in some parts of the state. Tomorrow is actually milder, but it's rainy with the wet weather taking over beginning in the afternoon. Strong to severe storms in time for the evening rush tomorrow. That clears, giving us some cloudy conditions by Thursday, still mild. And then we see a little bit of a cooling trend throughout Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, dropping down into the 40s as our highs by the end of the weekend. Starting off next week with temperatures a little bit cooler. We'll enjoy the mild weather this week. Again, in the shore points, it'll be a little bit cooler. We don't necessarily climb as warm thanks to the shore locations being influenced by that 39-degree Atlantic Ocean. So your highs this weekend on Saturday and Sunday only climb to 43 by Sunday afternoon, starting off on 29 by Monday morning, back up to 46 Monday of next week. There are no more big storms in the forecast beyond tomorrow on the 7 days, so I think we get a nice break and get to enjoy a little spring feel around here, Ken, as we look ahead to a nice mild weekend again, at least starting off that way. Very similar to the way this past weekend started off. Mild, kids were out playing in the park. It was in the mid 60s, and then temperatures cooled down by Sunday.
There you go. Let's just hope it, pardon me, the roller coaster goes in the upward trend. That's what we keep hoping. All right,
We
Mike,
like
thank
that.
you, sir. We'll catch you tomorrow during the
See ya.
storms. All right. It is
Yes.
34 degrees, you bet, at 8:52 right now. And in terms of traffic, we have a little delay now here on US 9 southbound Central Avenue, Lakewood Township, all lanes are open, but delays due to volume there. Delays on US 1 northbound at Harrison Street and West Windsor Township, all lanes open, but again, volume delays, and still have the emergency construction of the sinkhole. Eastbound I-80 in Wharton exit 34, everybody being detoured off. That'll be for the next couple of weeks. It is now 8:53. The top FBI official in New York City has been forced out of his job, according to an email that he sent to his colleagues yesterday. His name is James Dennehy. He's the assistant, or was the assistant director in charge of the FBI's largest field office in Manhattan. He was told on Friday to turn in his retirement papers by yesterday. He did that. Dennehy told his staffers she had no idea why he was told to resign, conveniently forgetting to mention that he appeared to have directly ignored orders from the new attorney general, his boss, Pam Bondi, to release all the files that he was keeping locked up on convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. He instead chose to release just the old papers that were already released last year, and that left Attorney General Bondi looking embarrassed and powerless, so he got the boot for it. When your boss tells you to do something, you don't give her the finger. You do what she tells you. Then he was already under a microscope for allegedly ignoring President Trump's orders to produce a list of 5,000 agents and employees who were part of the January 6th investigation. Senior members of DC's intelligence agencies have appeared to weaponize against the right in recent years, and they don't seem to like it when people they were harassing are suddenly in charge of them. Funny how that works. It is 8:54. Jersey Shore beach badge passes for 2025 have been released, and some are costing as much as $200. ONNJ.com did an amazing job. They listed town after town. Go to their website. You could see the cost and how to get each badge for each town and all the prices they charge. At least a dozen beaches are offering entry to veterans for free and many other discounts to seniors and the physically challenged. But the badges do sell out fast, so if you want to get your badge for this summer, you may want to pull out the credit card and do it right away. By the way, in the state of Florida, you know, that state that they make fun of, even though it has no state income tax and has all the services that we have in New Jersey, beaches in Florida, every beach in the entire state of Florida is open and free for everyone. There is no such thing as an entry fee in Florida. Yet the beaches are beautiful, clean, well-maintained. They all have full-time professional lifeguards. They are patrolled by police and beach guards. No crime ever gets reported. None that in all the years I lived in Florida, never heard of a crime on a beach. How is it that they can do it in Florida, but New Jersey towns have to charge $200? And before you say, but Ken, the crowds, well, remember, Florida has way more population than New Jersey, like 3 times the population. In fact, Florida is the 3rd largest state in terms of population, and I think the 4th or 5th largest in terms of physical size. And they have the highest number of tourists in the nation, or one of the highest numbers outside of California. Tourists who go there, by the way, for their beaches. And again, Florida does not charge an admission fee. You could even park on the street and pay no more than a few dollars to park in Florida, just so you know. Last night, the Vatican announced the Pope suffered 2 episodes of what's called acute respiratory insufficiency. That means he was on the verge of not being able to breathe due to the enormous amount of congestion and fluids in his lungs. Doctors were able to remove some of the fluid and put him on forced oxygen. As of last night, he was stable, but doctors say he's not out of the woods. Over the weekend, the Pope thanked everybody for their prayers and said, please continue to pray. President Trump said today's the day that he will begin to impose 25% tariffs on goods imported from Canada and Mexico, ending wishes for a last-minute reprieve that could avoid a trade war with 2 of the U.S.'s top trading partners. Trump told reporters yesterday, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow, meaning today the tariffs will go into effect. Trump cited the flow of deadly fentanyl to the U.S. as justification for the tariffs. The president also imposed an additional 10% tariff on Chinese imports, doubling the 10% duty already slapped on Beijing in early February. And it is now 8:57. And what appears to be the perfect example of the slow death of traditional TV, this year's Academy Awards show Sunday evening, while still producing a respectable audience for the Academy Awards, was down 7% year to year, as people gradually change viewing habits to streaming services like us at ONNJ New Jersey and using their phones for headlines. Traditional broadcast TV has seen the biggest decline in audience of any entertainment medium. And that is going to do it. 34 degrees at 8:57. That's on the mornings for Tuesday, March 4th. I'm Ken Rosato, meteorologist Mike Favetta once again saying partly sunny, windy, milder today, highs in the low 60s, but then big storms tomorrow. Beware of that. Remember, we stream at ONNJ.com, Roku, Fire TV, News on Samsung TV Plus, Apple TV, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And now we stream live on Rumble and Twitch. Just go to twitch.tv on the That's ONWJERSEY, all spelled out. Friends about us tomorrow bright and early at 7 a.m. In the meantime, have a great day.